Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of Star Trekking with Nerdy Up North. Episode 4. I am your host, Michael. Oh, do they call me Goodwill or Michael? I don't. We'll just say Goodwill. Him over there with the frosted tips, as most people will probably know me. I am joined by my wonderful, hardworking co-host Graeme.
Oh, me. Oh, hello.
Yeah,
I am a person. I exist. I am a corporeal entity, perhaps. But yeah,
he
yeah,
is,
no,
guys.
wonderful.
We've seen him in person.
Lord of the Frosted Tips. No, how are
He's
you
not a
doing?
changeling.
Oh, are you sure
I'm
about that? I don't know.
I don't know.
Need
To be fair, if
clarification.
I was a changeling, I'd give myself hair. Even if it was like, even if it was like Odo or as like sort of Doctor Father, I just watched that
Yeah.
episode again where you just kind of like they have a complicated relationship, but also like the
and
Doctor's a bit
we
of a dick. But yeah, I would have given myself hair if I was a changeling, unless it's a double bluff.
and we are joined by a very, very special guest this week, guys, from the awesome YouTube channel Spectrum Sanctorum. We have the lovely Captain Dove, as I'm going to call
Hello
it.
and greetings from across the pond, as we like to say here in the United States of America.
It's
Well,
Joe.
hello, hello. How are you guys?
Hello.
I was
I'm
going
all
to come
right.
in with the America, but I don't know.
We'll get like a bald eagle sort of graphic,
Yeah.
sort of floating
Yeah.
down. And stuff.
We'll do it in post. We'll
Yeah, bring it forward.
Flames and Eagles. But yes, this is the lovely, wonderful Captain Joe Dove from Spectrum Sanctorum, the YouTube channel that does literally everything you can think of nerd-wise and covers everything that you can think of nerd-wise. Do you want to talk us through what you guys do over there?
Sure, we've got everything, and everyone is welcome in the Spectrum Sanctorum because we go everywhere from collectibles, like all the wondrous things you see behind me, and
I want all of it. I want all of the toys.
and of course we go into throws into the 80s with He-Man and Ghostbusters and plenty of other shows in the VHS vault. We go into movies and classics that you remember going up and down those aisles of Blockbuster to get and return 2 days later or pay a phenomenal fee. we dive into He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and the Power of J-Skull, and we get behind the curtain when we interview people from all treks of life that are involved in movie, TV, and streaming production. So we do it all. We have a lot of fun, and our main flagship is the Captain's Quadrant, where I, Joe Dove, talk about all things Star Trek with my mates, Jason and Jason. They're like a legal team. You needed, but you really do.
Don't
And
forget Battle Cat.
yeah, exactly. Battle Cat is the new number one. And of course, Nita, our Klingon warrior who joins recently. And we have a blast. We just have so much fun. We've had Jake on 1 week later where we go back and look at the latest releases of the week after to see what happened after the dust settled and either the numbers were good or bad, and we'll get into it and we'll chat, and it's a lot of fun.
Make sure you check them out. I'll put everything in the description below, guys. Make sure you give Spectrum Sanctorum a follow on everywhere, because I believe you're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok.
Yep, Facebook. We're sporadic on TikTok. We're more Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, of course, and YouTube is our mainstay. So, and we're also
weird. I'm way too old for TikTok. I'm trying to do it, and like I've got friends who are like showing me all these things, and I'm just like going, but it's 5 seconds long.
well, no, they just released an update. It's now 10 minutes long.
Wow. Oh, okay.
Now
I can get
is
into this.
your
You
time.
can tell a story in 10 minutes.
Yeah, you can tell a whole story. So I woke up this morning, you really get into it. But what's fascinating is my little cousin's on TikTok, and my mother, who's disabled, she's in a home for the aged, and she's on TikTok, and she's about 70. So you're not young. You're not too old. You're not too young. You can always jump on TikTok. That's my point there. And if you're on TikTok, you can follow me as Captain Dove CQ at This Dungeon CQ.
Cool. Yeah. No, we'll put that in. I don't know the description. I guess. Yeah.
It will be in the description below, right down there.
Yes,
Where my
thank you.
fingers
I
are
appreciate
pointing.
I'm so happy to be here because I love talking Trek. I was almost up till 2 a.m. just talking to other random people on the old internet's going, oh, but then this happened. So now I get to do it with my guys from Nerdy Up North. So glad to be on your channel. You guys are amazing and you're so welcoming. And when I come over there, we'll have a few pints, right?
Oh, more than a few.
All right.
Definitely we'll have at least 50.
Oh,
If you're
wow.
entering the north, if you're entering the north of England, the minimum limit is at least what, 10, 25?
I'm pretty sure Newcastle has a "you must be this drunk to enter" sign.
Oh yes, of course, yes. No courts allowed.
I got to
of course.
detox my liver beforehand. Yeah.
But Graeme, oh busy man of the north, what have you been doing this week?
What have I been doing? Well, I've been doing pissing Snatch talk again. That's my life now. It's got a bit weird because basically I'm if you haven't seen the previous episodes, I am currently, there is a big drag Newcastle drag competition that's every year happening at the moment, and I'm the correspondent for it. So I do all of the backstage interviews and stuff with the contestants and whatnot. But even though we were trying to organize some kind of agreement, I was too busy to spread out duties between people. I was too busy in December and January and February. And basically I'm just doing it all myself again, which means that a lot of my week is dedicated to writing, editing, getting into drag to film, and then putting it all together and stuff, and just being like, and see kind of, you finish at like 11 p.m. on like Wednesday, getting the edit done, and then you can set it off rendering and whatnot. And then on Thursday, you're like, cool, I can sleep. And oh no, I agreed to do a gig tonight. Great. Okay.
Nice. Wow.
And it's just, it never stops, but it's only for 6 weeks. It's a 6-week competition and stuff. But in April, I will be free, which means I can return to the other Nerdy Up North podcasts and whatnot. Nice. But the fact is, I'm such a massive fan of Star Trek, and I'm like really loving this series of Picard. So I'm quite glad that I'm able to be like, okay, cool. Fridays are my day off, but let's do fucking this. Let's do this. And, I'll probably be streaming on Twitch after this at Synoiz, SYNOIZ. But this is pre-recorded, isn't it? So I won't be.
This is
that's how time works, right?
Yes.
We are non-linear at Star Trekking with Nerdy Up North. Time is merely a construct of the solids. We are all but prophets in a giant wormhole.
Yes.
Shall we get into this week's episode of Star Trek Picard?
Let's do it.
Absolutely. I watched this on my lunch break today, and it was phenomenal. Like, that giddiness. Like, I haven't watched television where I'm sort of being like, and like,
oh my god, it's a shared experience.
Yeah, getting so, just like so excited about it and stuff, and it's like this. I don't know, and it feels weird because when you wouldn't notice the absence of it, but then when it happens, you're like, oh, this is what I've been missing from loads of stuff, and this episode was like that. So I actually started getting upset. Like, I started getting worried every time it faded to black because I was like, oh, is it over?
Is this over?
Oh, no. They're going to end it there. And then it like fades back in. They're like, oh, cool. Okay, more stuff. Cool, great.
Yeah.
And that's a weird sensation. Like, it's wonderful.
I agree. It's been a while that, obviously, because when you're watching stuff online, you've got the little runtime if you press pause or however you watch it. We don't judge however you watch it, but there were parts.
Says Mr. I watched it on Thursday. Goodwill.
I do. I also watch it on Friday, legitimately. So dodgy up north, as we like to say. But this was an episode, and this has been me for the last every single episode where you look at the runtime and you go, oh, is it almost over? Yay, I've got 20 minutes, and you're just like, and it's just you want more and more of it. And this week's episode yet again has knocked it out of the park. So let's get into episode 4, the no-win scenario, which my boy Sean Ferrick at Trek Culture put it down in his review because it was no non-win. And I think Jason mentioned that as well in your podcast, Joe.
Yes.
So
because he's a school teacher, so of course he would mention that.
Well, the grammar police, you see, you can't get anything past them. You cannot get anything past them. So let's get into it.
Are we getting into Odo levels of pedanticism here? Is that the mention of the founders?
Odo is the general theme of all of Star Trek now.
That's right.
So the show, the episode opens with a scene from 5 years ago, again in Guinan's bar.
Again
Picard,
with
this is
retro
where everyone
music.
knows your name. Yeah.
Like I mentioned last week, where it was the idea of in the show they seem to be like, oh, if it's in the past, then we play some 70s, 80s music because that represents the past. Because no other music has been made in the Trek universe.
They could have played the soundtrack from, what was it, Star Trek Beyond, when he was in the bar with Scotty and they had J.J. Abrams' actual band playing some strange alien music, but was just J.J. Abrams. I go deep sometimes. Be prepared.
I wonder about this though. Like, is it because they're trying to sort of like go, hey, this is old music for us, and therefore it represents the past to the viewer, or are they doing it as in, oh, we don't really want to sort of just guess what alien music sounds like? You know how, like, you know, in a lot of stuff like Star Wars and things where it goes like, oh yeah, this is what futuristic music sounds like, and it's literally just weird sort of synth sounds.
Yeah,
just like, okay.
Yeah.
It could be Klingon opera.
Oh yeah.
Could be Klingon opera. But I mean, if they use modern music, if they use the music of today, could you really see Admiral Jean-Luc Picard tucking into his fish and chips with Taylor Swift on the jukebox?
Maybe.
It's me.
Breakup would it be? How many breakups would Taylor Swift?
5. This is his and Beverly's 5th
She'd
breakup.
be a head in a jar, but still on like a 750th breakup. As long as it keeps the content coming, the gays are happy. So, you know.
Yes.
So, like I said, it opens up with Picard in Guinan's bar, just being delivered his quite anorexic haddock and chips, I may say, as a true northerner who lives near Whitby. And I'm like, come on, guys. We know Picard. He's Patrick Stewart. He's a true Yorkshireman. He'd be going, "Hey, what's up with this chip? Look at this bloody fish here. Look at it. It's starved." But so
maybe they need the replicators fixed.
Yeah. So he's about to tuck into his dinner, and then we see some cadets, or we believe they are cadets in the first season Picard uniforms, approaching him, wanted to ask some questions about all of his adventures, and they go on about a story about Herosian hunting. The Enterprise,
melding the Voyager and Next Gen.
Yeah, and another call out to Admiral Janeway as well.
Yeah, which I'm hoping they do a series after since this is
they have to.
I think the whole thing is this has to be like a testing the waters thing where they're going, hey, what can we mention? And then if people pick up on it, they're like, oh, let's do it. Like, you know, like obviously now they mentioned changelings. The reaction to that must have been so phenomenal that people are like going, we should probably do more involving them rather than being totally isolated to DS9. But I thought it was a mistake. Like they mentioned the Herodian, and I thought he was going to turn around and be like, nope, you're thinking of Janeway. But obviously, no, this is lore that we haven't seen that exists. And I think that's wonderful rather than like, you know, Next Gen, like, you know, Picard's stuff being limited to what we heard in the Stargazer and what we saw in Next Gen, you know.
It's brilliant that they are basically unifying the Next Gen era and amalgamating it into one show, which is the crossover that we all wanted from the 90s. Which they did talk. Yeah, they did talk about. I think they wanted to do one big movie after Nemesis, which was sort of like the ultimate crossover. But obviously, the poor performance of Nemesis sort of canned anything to do with the Next Gen era. But so the cadets, he's talking about how they beat the Herosian with the cadets, and he always says, you know, what you have to remember is no matter how bleak or unwinnable the situation is, you are never without hope. And then we go straight into the Titan that is being pummeled like hell by rocks, drifted in, hopeless. You've killed us all. Pummeling in.
Bridge, old man.
Yeah. I still can't get over that from last week, but we'll get into that. But so the Titan's without hope. It's drifting. Riker's on the bridge. They're trying to assess the situation. What can we do? Well, if we use the engines, we're just bleeding. We're hemorrhaging basically. The ship is bleeding to death. And if you use more energy, you're going to die quicker. So he makes a decision to basically divert all power to life support just so that the crew have got a few hours, move them all into the common areas. And then we see that what I thought was quite mature of Riker going to visit Jean-Luc in his quarters and not apologizing, but sort of addressing, basically, I'm speaking to you as a courtesy, spend time with your son. And he goes into this quite touching story about when he was burying Thaddeus and how, looking into the hole where the coffer room's going and it was bleak and it was lifeless. And, he thought that he escaped all that. And here he is now in this nebula looking out the window at the same thing. And you sort of understand that why he left Deanna and his daughter. And I think this goes back to the first season where they found out that there was a cure for Thaddeus. And I think he struggled to cope with that, struggled to cope with the fact that, my son could have been saved. And I think this is why he left. I mean, he openly admits it towards the end, but you sort of get the glimmer of, the effects of the first season of affected Riker in a way where he's like, I have no hope, and to escape, to basically save Deanna and my daughter, I've just left them.
I mean, we'll see throughout this episode, like, just how amazing the actual writing is on this. But this is a perfect scene of that, where basically it's Troy's not in it, but it's basically telling you more about Troy because of how he describes it, about how he describes that him being an emotional void, or him being so obsessed about this, like, affected her negatively. And, and that kind of gives this kind of, wow, I never thought about that. Like, because obviously the only betazoids that we get fucking Roxana, who is a villain, basically. She's like one of the best villains in Trek. And then you've got Troy, where she's not a full empath, but she's basically very emotional. But also the idea of, we were complaining about him telling Picard to go off the bridge last week, and we felt that was out of character. And then here we have him kind of apologizing, kind of coming back and being like, look, that was the heat of the moment, like, we're still friends, kind of thing, like you would do, like, if you snap at someone, you would go back and be like, sort of, okay, cool, are we, sorry. And I think that's great characterization for it. Like, that gives, that turns something that we thought was a mistake into kind of a, oh, now you're even more of a character.
Yeah.
I
thought it was fantastic acting as well. I think one of the biggest takeaways from this episode is how much they spent into execution, because sometimes in the previous seasons, things came a little flat. I don't know if that was because they spent so much time developing new characters, or
but they're not giving them enough time. Getting a new character and be like, you have one episode, now you're just standing in the background for like three things,
Yeah, and our show we like to call Elnor Space Legolas. And we thought for sure we'd have
Legolas does stuff in the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah, that's true. Season 2, he's like, just lie there, just lie on the bed. We're going to pay you. Don't worry about it.
You exist. You are here.
Yeah. But I thought it was fantastic that everybody's getting a decent amount of screen time, except for Worf and Raffi. They were like sands in this episode, because it was a central focused isolation into the void, and the subsequent result of overcoming this no one scenario. And it's one of the biggest throws into Star Trek, because Captain Kirk has always said the famous line, I don't believe in no win scenarios. And every Star Trek ship has, except for the ones that get destroyed in like Borg invasions or the Dominion, they usually find a way to get out of it. The main focus ships, there is no such thing as a no-win scenario, and then they proved it again. So I love
that's the thing. It's the same as like what is it, Troy when she's trying to take the captain's exam or whatever. Is it the commander's exam or the captain's exam where she's trying to do that? And then it's like, so you'd think it was a no-win scenario, but you just have to kill Geordi. And so basically that's the way it works.
Yeah, just kill them. Yeah, that's how you're supposed to win the Kobayashi Maru. You're supposed to blow up the Kobayashi Maru. There was a trick to it.
Well, that's the thing. That's the ultimate test for captains. A no-win scenario, you have to learn to accept your fate.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we then go into 7 of 9, who is entering Ensign Foster's quarters, searching, trying to find out any clues about the changeling. And then she finds Ensign Foster, who has been dead for a few days.
He was rather purple, wasn't he?
He was rather purple, yeah, a bit smelly. Was
Oh.
Ensign Foster.
I'm surprised you didn't pick that up first. Ooh,
wow. Oh, God.
He's probably got a Glade plug-in in or something.
Got one of those little trees on his neck.
The changeling's just like, haha, the ultimate deception.
Yeah, that's a
Starfleet have amalgamated Glade into their air circulation system. Yeah. Pine. So she goes to speak to Riker and basically says, he's been dead for days. He basically, whoever this person is, they were here before Jack came aboard. And I think this is good because Riker's basically saying, well, I could reinstate you, but we have to keep this quiet for the morale. And if you are not reinstated, you can, sort of get away with a lot more than what you could. You're a ranger. Yes, exactly. You're a maverick. You're a renegade.
Right. So, I loved how choppy that scene was as well. Like it literally just cut to that scene, couple of words to get that across, and then went back to it. And I was just like, this is great because it's punchy, but then you're still hearing everything.
The pacing in this section, it was brilliant because you've got this little her searching a dialogue with Riker, and then we go to sickbay where it's Beverly's starting to notice there's something up with these bioelectric pulses that are affecting the ship's systems, and Picard's like, I want to speak to Jack on for a few moments on their own, and then it's bang straight back in to Seven going to Shaw, which I absolutely loved because this shows that yes, Seven absolutely hates Shaw, but she knows when she needs help and who the best person is to go and get that help from. She knows, do I have to do it? She doesn't and ah, she's just like, right, I need Shaw. I will go to Shaw.
But it's the prevailing element. The message throughout this episode is trust and respect. And it's this idea where she doesn't like him, but she respects him, I assume, and she trusts him. So it's, and it's that thing of going, when you're in a corner, that. I ran out of words at the end of that sentence.
But she's like,
never corner a tiger.
Yeah. But I love, because again, this is a short, choppy little scene where it's just like, hey, this ship, this crew better than anyone else. We've got 500 people here. There's a changeling. I need your help. And then bang, we're straight into the observation lounge with Riker struggling to record a message for Deanna.
On that iDesk.
On the iDesk, yes.
Yeah. All right, desk, record this.
Hey Siri, my name is not Siri.
Exactly.
But then we go back to Picard and Jack, who goes into the lovely. Shout out for the holodeck grid that we see. Just a little bit of Trek nerdism for me, and I was like, "Oh, it's the real holodeck! Yay!"
I love that. I also made a note here about basically like, oh, the holodecks are still in use even though they're in emergency power mode, and then it totally explains it later, and I was like, cross that off.
Now
thought I found a fault, and then it's like, no, they predict that. Also, actually, I just wanted to mention the Vulcan puzzle game from Voyager that Tuvok had, where it's in the guys' quarters, and I was just
game of logic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, good call.
I loved the little sound effects of the holodeck doors. I have missed that. It's the tiny little things. Hoo-wah.
Yeah.
I love that. But yeah, we go into holodeck. We go to 10 forward again. Picard absolutely loves 10 forward. Jack going, I'm not really a wine guy.
Yeah. And he's like, that's good. It's not really wine. He's like, oh, it's a fine vintage. And I'm like, this is a holodeck. But then and you put your own alcohol in it? Okay.
Yeah.
But then he breaks out the Jameson whiskey, and I'm like, hell yeah. Don't you think, guys, or going back to what Graham's just said there about the holodeck having its own system, and they do explain, that the holodeck has its own system in case people want essentially sanctuary or want to gather and stuff. This and
Or
this
be
is
there to die in
or
quiet.
be there to die. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think
Well, at least though, why can you imagine when later on when the people come in or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, the holodeck, cool," and then you come in and you find that bloody Picard's got like 10 forward on rather than like what is it like? Oh, what's it called? Vulcan Love Slave 4 or something. He's just like, no, that's how I want to die.
Yeah.
Hear me out on this one, guys. And I'm going to say this, there was a theme of this throughout the episode. The mention of the holodeck having its own specific power source in times of crisis links back to season 3 episode of TNG, Booby Trap. Well, Forge runs the holodeck program of Utopia Planitia Fleet Yards to try and decipher how to get out of the booby trap. And I noticed this throughout when we get to the other scenes, I'll say it again. This was and I was like, is that why they did it? Because of that? Because in times of crisis, they may need this program. Yes, you may need it if all hope is lost, but maybe Starfleet were like, oh, well, hold on. This was actually quite useful to go back to the drawing board and have this holodeck running, because we get that in Booby Trap where Riker's like, Picard's like, you're using all this power. So he's like, we need all this power to help for the computer to help us. And I just thought it was a great little callback to that, because a lot of people would have said if they didn't mention it, why is holodeck?
You wonder if maybe it became a protocol, like after Geordi using it to such great effect that they probably just went, actually the holodeck is a lot more than just like a pleasure tool kind of thing. Back to Vulcan Love Slave. But I hadn't even thought about that. But I think, maybe that would be great though, if in universe they had it where because of something that happened in TNG, it's now standard practice across the entire fleet.
Well, if you're on the Enterprise and something goes wrong and everything is kind of based off the Enterprise because that's the flagship, it kind of makes sense that what they've experienced goes now into standard procedure. And I thought it was a setup for Moriarty.
But it will be. It definitely.
Yeah.
Now we've been discussing
it has its.
We've been discussing this on the previous episodes, where it's this idea of like Moriarty. I don't think he's going to be a big bad. I think it's literally going to be that they go back to the Enterprise D for some reason later on, and he's the villain of the week, and they load it up, and then they're like, oh, it's Moriarty. I don't think he's going to be a bigger thing than that, but I just love that he's getting a conclusion. That they're going, hey, cool. You were a big loose end in the universe,
I think that I think it's going to be something to do with Daystrom, because as we know, he was captured in his own program and separated from the D. So I think that he was held at Daystrom, and you've got Peanut Hamper and the Jeffrey Combs robot box. I can't remember his name right now. Agamus.
Is that actually? I the problem is I only know that from like Lower Decks. Is that actually going to be in the wider universe?
It could be. Yeah.
To be fair, I'm happy for any Jeffrey Combs return.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take more Combs.
Because I was thinking Daystrom, like the thing that got stolen. I was thinking that might be Lore, but then Goodwin was pointing out that there's a lot better things there than a bastard robot.
Jason on our channel, Gaston, he was basically saying, what they probably stole was the Golem machine so that they could make an army again. That's what they want, because obviously Vedic is now, as we know, a changeling, but we'll get into that. Should we go?
Yeah. Well, we knew in bloody episode 2, didn't we? No, episode 3 was it, where the subtitles gave it away?
Really?
Well, apparently,
the subtitles.
I don't watch with subtitles, but Sean had mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah, it basically when it was talking about the crew members, when she was telling them to do stuff, it basically said changeling chitters or something in the subtitles, and you're like, oh, they're changelings, are they? You're like, you bastard subtitles.
Oh, I'm so glad. See, I'm losing my vision, so I usually have to wear my specs when I watch this stuff. So I don't put the subtitles on because I don't want to have to look down and I could just be like, watch it, blow up stuff,
So it's apparently it's affecting Amazon Prime, because over here Star Trek airs on both Paramount Plus and Amazon Prime. They did a deal, and it's only affecting the subtitles on Amazon Prime. So someone at Amazon Prime is either a huge anti-Trekkie or just doesn't care.
He's a dick. And that's what it is.
Because it's happened this week as well. It's spoiled this week. And everyone's like,
You
don't put the subtitles on.
You wonder how they make the subtitles, though. It might just be that they get sent the actual script, and then in the script, because they know what's happening, they kind of write it down as, oh yeah, these characters called changelings. But the audience are never going to hear that because it's not actual dialogue. And the subtitle person's just like, blah, 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 don't really care, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I have a job to do. I got to retype this in 20 hours. So screw it. You know?
Yeah. But so going back to 10 forward, and I love this little exchange between Jack and Jean-Luc where Jack goes, let's address the elephant in the room. And you think, oh, it's going to get deep now. And he just goes, the hair. And I'm like, oh my God. It's like, how old are you? 23, 24? He's 34, guys, by the way, Ed Spieler. So I need to know what moisturizer he uses. But Jean-Luc just doesn't go, he's like, are you 23, 24? He's like, yeah. Make the most of your hair while you can. I'm like, oh, damn. Sick burn. But he starts going on.
The sword of Damocles right there.
But he starts going on about some story he had with an Andorian. And you can see Picard doesn't really care about the story itself. It's more just listening to his son. Because there's a great little effect that they use where they muffle out the audio as it transitions into the next scene. So I thought that was really nice. But we then get to the next scene, which is again Shaw. Shaw is fastly becoming my favorite character of the whole series so far.
There's a slow petition. I don't know what captain of the USS Spectrum did it, but he said, hey, Terry Metalis, who do we have to petition or riot to get a Shaw spinoff like you did Discovery's Strange New Worlds? But whatever.
100%.
I think I quite like it because it's that typical thing where you get the grizzled old man who's a bastard but then does the right thing, and it's this kind of wonderful, it's this wonderful staple. And I'm just like, I kind of like that because it would work with Star Trek because it's an ensemble cast. If it was something where he was the only character in it, it wouldn't. But because it goes like, hey, all these other characters can be the nice ones and stuff, and then he's just like, piss. Piss.
I like this scene because obviously he's going on about the chick because as a captain and being in Starfleet for 30 plus years, he knows quite a lot about changelings, and he's like, goo people walking Claydor, and I'm like, oh, Claydor, nice little reference there. Yeah. But then he's like, they'll know things, they'll try and know things or they won't get things right. And then he says to Seven, like, I've always respected you. You've got the thing of a captain. And she's looking at him thinking, oh my God, is he actually telling? He's like, these are the things a changeling would say. So she goes, oh, so you would be nice and not just a dick. And I'm like, oh, she said what everyone else was thinking. Right. Yes, he is a dick. But then they go on about, he says, changing can only hold their shape for like 16 hours and they need to fall in, regenerate. Yeah. And we bring up, he pulls up the pad and he says they need a pot. And she's like, cannabis? And I'm like, oh, yeah,
that was great.
20 in Trek.
To be fair, though,
breaking barriers once again.
I noted this down, though, by being like, I'm a bit like disappointed that like it's such a current reference in something that's meant to be like 200 years in the future. That thing of just going, would we still be calling it pot? Like, would there not be better stuff? Like, would people not be having cannabis now because they'd have like crazy like Romulan drug or something?
Devil's lettuce.
Now. You want some crunk?
Yeah, that's it. It's just like I'll stick with my Sluggo Cola, thank you. But,
I think it would stand the test of time because they've been calling it pot since the 50s. And here we are in 2023. Yeah. So we're almost 100 years into the word pot as a marijuana. So I think it would make it stand the test of time.
I think it's one of these things. It's because I'm just not used to getting modern world references in Trek. Like Trek's always been its own kind of thing where rather than like having ale, it's Romulan ale. Rather than sort of like brandy, it's Saurian brandy. And that kind of thing. It's like the idea of pot still existing as its own thing. But it was funny though, as a line of just being like, what?
It caught me off guard. I was like, oh, she said pot. She said the thing.
But in reference to that, he goes, no, a bucket. And we get a lovely little picture of Odo.
That was beautiful.
The late, great Rene Augenois with the Bajoran bucket. And he's like, you need to look for this bucket. It'll be DNA. Put that in the sensors and we'll find them straight away. And then we go... Yeah, and then we go straight in. Again, the pacing of this I thought was really good because we get these really quick scenes where Crusher again she's sensing these pulses, and you can see that she's working on something. She's like, something's not right here.
I don't even think she was doing that. I think people were just dying in the background, and she's got like Candy Crush Saga on like an iPad or something, and he's like 5, 4,
Hold on,
3, and they're like, people are
I got
dying.
a sugar rush.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's the thing, because she doesn't reveal what she's doing until later in the episode. So everyone in the lab must have just been like, you okay? You good?
Doctor, we need to amputate the leg. Tasty. Oh, but then we've got Crusher with the pulses, and then we've got Seven rooting through the quarters again. She finds the pot again. This was a nice tiny little callback to the Undiscovered Country, where Scotty finds the claws in the air vent of the mess hall. I thought, and she finds it. And she sees the
shoe fit, wear it.
Yeah, wear it. And then he just looked down at web feet.
Something I can help you with.
But then she's looking at the pot, and then she just goes residue.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, yeah, we're looking for residue.
Though, like the bucket, it was just like, I know it's like maybe a reference, but it was just like it. How does the changeling have the bucket? Does it bring it with it, or does it replicate it? Why do they look the same? Is it like a standard changeling thing? Like after Odo, everyone in the Dominion's just like, this is your standard issue bucket. It needs to be like this.
I think that's a good question, but I think there's a reason for it, especially with the reference for Renee, since he had it. But at the same time, they're a splinter cell from the Great Link. So
yeah.
I think
so they wouldn't follow Odo's bucket
they wouldn't
style. They'd have their own bucket style. Yeah.
Right. But I
think renegade bucket.
Yeah. I think they have the Jem'Hadar making, pre-Jem'Hadar, they're probably all dead.
Can you imagine the Jem'Hadar like ceramics division or something?
Yeah.
We make bread for war. And just like sitting there with a little thing being like, okay,
we make the buckets. Yeah.
But here's the question.
Oh, that'd be amazing. It'd be the scene from Ghost. It'd be the scene from Ghost, but with like a Jem'Hadar like first. And then, like, I don't know, like the female changeling behind him. I don't know.
Yeah, teaching him how to do it. Yeah.
This does not serve the founders. It could be Starfleet protocol now going forward, based off what happened on the Titan. Any crew member boarding a ship with a bucket must be questioned.
I would stop.
Why would you bring a bucket?
Like, hang on.
What do you need a bucket for? I have plants. He will grow later.
But where are the plants?
Why is there goo in your plant pots?
There's seeds right now, and that's
it's ectoplasm. But then we go back to what I have missed. We go back to the Shrike, who has escaped the nebula. I love the noise. The noise for me is very reminiscent of the Reapers from Mass Effect.
Oh, interesting.
The deep bassy noise that it makes, and then we see Vedic. A little shout out, by the way, for the chair sound effect, her captain's chair sound effect, exactly the same as General Chang's.
Yep. And it spins the same way, and it's positioned the same way. Look at Chang's chair and look at her chair, and you're going to be like, oh, yeah, they did this on purpose.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And another throw to Chang, like she's all scarred up like Chang has, like Chang lost his eye. We actually interviewed the special effects master on Star Trek's Undiscovered Country, and he said the detail that these guys put into it. If you zoom in on Chang's eye, you can see the insignia of the Klingon homeworld. That little the 3 lines with the little ball in the center.
No way.
And then I said, really? And I went back and I watched. It's like, oh my god, he was right. And I zoomed in because now I have a tablet, and I just zoomed in. It's like, yeah, you could see it like a little bit, but it's incredible the detail that they have. And so Thomas was the man, and gave us that little nugget that I love, and I love sharing it with people because I just think that's a great story that they put so much detail into Star Trek 6.
That is the passion throughout the series from all sides, like obviously with the writers, with the actors, and with like the special effects is fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, you've got Doug Drexler, you've got Michael Kuda. I mean, every week I seem to be messaging Doug and just be like, dude,
send nudes.
Thank you. I think he's sick of me messaging him on Facebook, and I'm just like, Doug, thank you so much. And he's like, I'm literally just doing this job. I didn't create everything, but no, Doug, thank you. But yeah, so Vedic goes to this little pot, which I thought had water in it, and then brings out
Yeah.
the blade. Shinzon's blade, by the way,
Oh,
from Nemesis.
This is the weird thing. Like, I got it kind of spoiled for me on like Thursday, where it was on YouTube, and then
Yeah.
basically it just came up with a recommended video, and it was literally why does they have Shinzon's blade? And I was like, thanks for that, like on the picture, and you're like, you bastards.
good thing I don't watch
Yeah.
anybody else but your stuff, because you and Sean's, and I wait until after we do ours to watch Sean's. I'm like,
Yeah. Do you reckon that's just going to be a reference for the fans, or do you reckon it's actually going to be relevant to the story?
It may be relevant because the Shrike has a lot of similarities to the scimitar. The way that the pointy, sharp edges are with the scimitar and the Shrike, and the
Narada as well.
Narada too, yeah, and the Narada had that shriek sound too, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, when it came through the wormhole.
Yeah. So I felt like that was a callback to that, because apparently that's the rift in the timeline for the Kelvin and Next Gen, and I don't know if you guys are as bad as I am and then start buying Star Trek comics, but they actually have a countdown to the Star Trek. The Star Trek Beyond, or no, it wasn't Beyond. It was just Star Trek, right?
Star Trek 09,
yeah, Star Trek 09. And there's a story where when Spock was getting the red matter, there was actually, I don't know if they ever filmed it or they just came up with the idea, and Patrick Stewart said no, like but there was a reference to B4 being now controlled by the cortex of Data. As captain of the Enterprise F, and Admiral Picard was helping with Ambassador Spock with the red matter to save Romulus, and it went awry, and then that's why he got put in the past. But they kind of cut out the Next Gen passing the torch type of thing, and I think that did a disservice to the timeline of Trek, because it would have been like, okay, at this point everything stays the same, but anything before has two splinter cells of timelines. And now with Marvel doing all the timeline stuff, I think the general public will get it. Oh yeah, like the Marvel thing, because they have all the
multiverses. Don't.
Yeah, the
I just settled in the fact of I will not understand it, and I kind of have this comfort in being like, no, I'm not even going to try and comprehend this. I'm just going to enjoy things.
So obviously with Shinzon's blade, we are presuming it's Shinzon's blade. She cuts her hand off, as you do.
The weirdest part of the whole episode.
Yeah, and then it's a changeling. Is it a communication changeling? Because we get this essentially Power Rangers Zordon face in
Rangers.
Rangers. Assemble Romulans with attitude.
Are we talking about Flesh Zordon here?
Flesh Zordon, yeah. So, and he's basically, she's like, the Titan's dead in the water. It's falling to a gravity well. We can't, and he's just like, pursue.
Yeah,
we can't. He's like, no, you are expendable. Your whole crew is expendable.
Yeah.
But it's a suicide mission. It's a suicide mission if you don't do it. And you're like, this is the first thing where you go, oh, damn, she is not the big baddie of this season.
Yeah.
She is merely a pawn for something much more grandiose.
Yeah.
So the jettison, the portal weapon, which lovely little thing of Dacian, because, if you've got a top secret portal weapon, put your company's logo on the side of it.
What, you're not supposed to? Oh, shit.
if lost, please return to. To be fair, I love this because, this is exactly what I want. Because obviously I'm a massive DS9 fanboy, and what I want is stuff where it's basically not upsetting things, but adding to things. And this is like going, this could totally be canon. This could totally be how the founders communicate. So during the last days of the Dominion War, this could be how the female changeling was communicating through to the Gamma Quadrant or something, because we don't know how the range on it works or whatever. When it was all sealed off, and they might. I'm assuming the Federation would probably have destroyed any communication devices that they could see for the Dominion.
Oh damn! Hear me out.
I like the idea that this. This kind of goes, hey, this doesn't upset anything, but kind of adds to the lore, which is...
I agree.
I'm not used to that, because in Picard, it seems in the previous two seasons, it's like, hey, we're going to kind of ruin this thing in order to bring this new thing in, and I'm a bit biased there, sorry.
What if they are connected via the mycelial network. Disco reference.
Oh,
Disco reference, everyone.
Imagine. Oh, speaking of disco, do you guys remember that there was a changeling in disco last
There
season?
was in the 32nd century.
We obviously know that they make it.
Yeah,
That's it.
there we go. There we go. So we get that lovely. We need more Amanda Plummer. I think she's terrific.
She's so
as
good.
Vedic.
She's just
Very
so
deliciously evil.
Yeah, it's like deliciously evil, but then like just everything about them, like, you know, their mannerisms where it's like, this is how you do crazy. This is how you do someone who's like mentally like unstable rather than being way over the top. It's that little, like I said last week, it's like there's bubbling under the surface of just this thing of going, she will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
But she's being nice now, and I just absolutely love everything. I got scared at the end. I was like, oh god, is she gonna die? No, please don't die. It's only episode 4, you know.
Yeah.
But I found. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Joe.
No, I found it interesting about Amanda Plummer now being the big bad. They did, however, you know, we could get that Zordon thing. They did kind of give you a moment of one of the lines that Seven said was, there's something bigger going on because these people were put on before Crusher got on the ship, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that makes you think that, okay, before Crusher got, I mean, that means also before Picard got on the ship. So this was orchestrated from episode 1.
Yeah. Well, we saw the Shifty dude in, because I used to call him Shifty Yellow Shirt.
Yeah, because he was looking like, you know.
He did
we call him Captain Side Eye. You know?
Yeah, Simpsons Shifty Dog, where it's just like, he's just like,
Wait, hold on. Are we suggesting the Shifty joke from The Simpsons is a changeling?
Yeah.
Okay,
confirmed.
right, there we go. It's
confirmed
canon now. Right.
It's canon now. So we go back to 5 years ago, and a lovely callback to the Temerians from Next Generation, where he's basically, you know, this is how we communicated. They communicated using metaphors, and if we didn't do this, we would die. And I'm like,
along with his arms wide,
his arms wide, when the walls fell. I'm like, yes, love it. Bring out the next gen jacket.
Phenomenal episode of Trek, because it represents everything I love about this season, where it's talking. It's relationships, it's working things out, and that is a perfect example of TNG doing that, where it's like, we're going to do an episode about language and semantics today. You know, hope you're okay. You know, like rather than going, it's explosions, it's all this. You know.
But then they go back to present day where Picard's telling Jack about the worst navigational issue he ever faced with his namesake, Jack Crusher, who he considered his best friend. And he was like, I don't know why my mother called me Jack. And he was like, well, if I was there, I would have called you Jack as well because he was my best friend. I'm like, oh, that's, 100%. 100%. That would be brilliant. And he's like, basically, we were going to we were at this planet on shore leave, and we were about to get laid, and then we got called back to the Stargazer, but we needed to get our end away, so we stole a shuttle to go back to the planet, and then we had a micro meteor storm, and we were dead in the water. And I knew where they were going with this scene, because they were saying, we had to navigate all the way back to the ship with just thrusters and basically juggling between thrusters and life support. However, guys, we do get a major thing happen in this scene, because Picard goes 10 fucking grueling hours.
Yeah.
Never thought I would hear Jean-Luc Picard F-bomb.
I wrote it down. I wrote down Picard swearing just to check with you guys. Like, has this happened in the previous seasons? Have we heard Picard swear like
not an F-bomb?
Or at least F-bomb.
Not an F-bomb. Not an F-bomb.
Yeah.
No. He might have said shit, but like Data said shit in Generation. So, and Terry Metalis on the internet said, yeah, and by the way, fuck. You know what I mean? So
he did, yeah. So I like that.
Yeah.
But
I also like that you got a double F-bomb, because he was talking about fucking and then he says it,
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, you look at it a little bit. Yeah.
It's on the mind, but then he basically trying to bond, and then Jack's, because the cadets come in to the holodeck to seek refuge, shall we say?
Yeah, right.
And they go on about how the crew is the family. A lot of basically, this is my family. And then Jack's going, I'm good with being on the outside. I've always been on the outside. This is not really my thing. And he said, if you're looking for, if this is a moment for me, I don't need it. This is more of a moment for you. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I can sort of see that this is a moment for Picard.
It wasn't. It was Jack saying like, "Oh, I don't need this moment. I'm fine." And then Picard opening up and being like, "No, I need this moment."
Yeah.
You know, and I like the dynamic of it being that way, of Picard being like, "No, actually, I'm not this rock, you know, like everyone expects me to be."
Yeah.
So we then get obviously 7 and 9 going to the biolab with the bucket and the residue. And then the changeling
not even trying to hide it, by the way.
Oh,
just
no,
sort of
no.
not like, you know, just like,
just walking around. I got your
again,
bucket,
yeah, that's it.
Starfleet protocol, bucket check.
What must everyone have been thinking? Just be like, oh, she's been laying on, you know, she's been taken off duty and now she's got a bucket. Great. You know, okay, she's doing well.
Someone get the psychiatrist in here because she's just walking around the ship with a bucket. You know,
out of my way, I have residue.
Yeah, but so she's saying, you know, we need this analyzing, blah blah blah, and the changeling is just there, kills the crew member. I mean, goddamn, just kills a crew member. 7 fires off a few shots, and then I'm loving the goo animation.
Yeah, definitely an upgrade. For sure.
100%.
It's like I liked the idea of it, like, just, you know, in DS9 the special effects weren't brilliant, but it was the fact of like it was always like a beige liquid kind of thing. It was like a sort of nectar kind of thing. But then in this, I love the fact that it keeps on the colors that it was like. So it's got this fleshy tone that seems to be kind of fading out of it, I guess. But yeah, I just think it's great, like, you know, that it's more nuanced, like how the goo is.
So
I don't know why I made a big point of that. It's just like, oh, let's talk
because we love talking about goo.
we absolutely love talking about goo. And then obviously we got interplays between Seven and Crusher again, where, you know, we've got to change, blah, blah, blah. And Crusher's basically like, it's going to get worse, referencing these bioelectrical pulses. We've still got we go back to 10 forward, and I think this is probably the best scene in this episode, because we have Shaw entering the holodeck, and, you know, he's dosed up, he's high as a kite on painkillers, and then he just goes on about how, you know, the first time he met Jack's father, Jean-Luc, and we finally get it. We finally get Wolf 359, stardate 440.9.3 or something.
Yeah. I'll give you 5 points for that. Yeah, well done.
Fun fact, guys, to everyone who's watching, stardates from the Next Generation onwards referenced the series number. So in season 1 of Next Gen, it was 4-1. In season 2, 4-2, so on and so forth. So the stardate of this, which is referenced later on, is still, I believe, canonically accurate to how it would have been 30 years ago. Stardate 78183.1.
I didn't realize that they were like that. That's how they did the dates, because I always remember in Next Gen where the dates didn't seem to make any sense. Like the date would be like, you know, a couple of hundred things after, and then it'd be like, but it's only, and then they'd be talking about how it was like half a year ago, and you're like, hang on, what? You know, like, it's that weird thing, but I never, you know, when you don't want to go too far into it. You know?
But the first 2 digits was always 44, so it'd be, you know, 41, 42, 43, 44, and then 47, and then they kept it going in DS9 Voyager, and I think this is the first time we've seen it in Picard.
In New Trek, because they don't really. Yeah, because I think even Pike's The Strange New World, when he does his logs, it's captain's
all
log.
over,
just like Kirk's did,
Kirk's was all over the place. He was like 101.632, and then the other one was like 128, and it's just like, what?
It's like you've gone back in time, right?
But this the this scene is the best scene for me. It's the most favorite scene for me out of this episode, because we get this lovely Liam Shaw survivalist guilt monologue, where he's like, you know, the first time I met your father, Stardate 44 thing, Wolf 359. He's like, he was on the USS Constance, which I wondered from the end credits of Picard, because we do see a slight clip of a Constellation class USS Constance lost in battle, and the date is Wolf 359.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was like, that's it's a nice little thing. But this monologue for me was very, very evocative of Cisco in part 1 and 2 of Emissary, especially part 1.
It's just terrifying that like we get to see Wolf 39. Well, technically we don't. We kind of see the aftermath of it, but it's like we see the beginning of it and then we go, oh, okay, yeah, that was bad. But it's this idea of like it's such a major event in Trek. It is so, and you kind of, it's weird watching Next Gen again and not really fully taking in the magnitude of what happens in that moment kind of thing, and then realizing that it's basically Cisco's beginning effectively, like with him losing Jennifer and whatnot, and then also just how many people were affected by this one,
apparently
like an episode
11,
literally, that's it,
11,000.
And this is it's so good. Like I absolutely adored this like monologue from Shaw, because like he's gone from being a bastard in the first time we meet him to now just being like, oh, I kind of understand.
Yeah,
that's why you hate them.
Oh yeah.
It was very. I got huge Cisco callbacks to this because obviously the fallout from Wolf 359, 40 ships, 11,000 dead, and we've only had it from other than the Enterprise D and Picard Locutus perspective, we've only had Ben Sisko, and to be like, 11,000 people died. There was a lot of people at this battle, so we finally got someone else. And the way he tells his story, we went down to the life deck of the Constance, and there was only room for 10 people. There was 50, and it's just like, why me? And this survivalist guilt, and we see a lot of this in the real world, where it's just like, why me? Out of everyone,
I think that's why people relate to Shaw so much and are begging Terry Metalis and Paramount Plus, if you're listening, for a Shaw series, because we can relate to him. Because a lot of people have gone through a lot of stress. I mean, look what's going on in the wars that are going on right now between Yemen and Ukraine, and the beef between India and China right now. There's a lot of people that understand what the stress of almost Armageddon is. Because essentially Borg is the living embodiment of Armageddon, because they're coming, they'll kill you, and whatever's left they'll just take. So
and you can't stop them to a certain extent. You can't stop them. And you Todd Stashwick's performance, he embodies that guilt that's tore him up for 30 years. 30 years. And he's now facing the very person that caused this guilt, and he's like, I was just a dipshit from Chicago. Why was I chosen above anyone else? And Jack tries to stop him, but Picard's like, no, it's all right, because Picard knows. I mean, he I think to a lesser extent he did this with Cisco, because he tried to move on the subjects in DS9 with Cisco.
But he was the boss in DS9, whereas he's not the boss.
And this was sort of like, it's all right. And it's like basically just saying he needs this catharsis. He needs to face this demon, which is me. And you can. You
wonder how many times he must have had it, though. Like, it's the fact of he gets it from Cisco, he gets it from Shaw. You just kind of go like, it must keep coming up. And it's so terrifying, because that's the horrible nature of the Borg, is the fact that Picard wasn't willing, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's the fact of they assimilated him, and then they got access to all of his knowledge. And, and the problem is, like we were saying previously about, like, Shaw hating sort of like Picard and Riker because maybe their reputation with Starfleet is different in lore history, is different to the actual what we see in the show, where we go, hey, they made this decision because of this and this. Whereas, like, in actual world history, it might just be like, they blew up loads of shit and they were crazy, and so the idea of, like, they might not know that as Locutus he had no choice, it wasn't a willing thing, he didn't actively do it. But it's so scary, though, the idea of the Borg, because Wolf 359 is the humbling of the Federation. Like, so he is Shaw as like an engineer on this like starship, and the future's bright, the future's rosy, there's no wars going on at that particular time. It was literally all exploration and whatnot, and then suddenly, oh, there's an enemy that can literally, one cube can just wipe out an entire fleet. That's
that was the amazing thing with the Borg, is there was just one ship. It wasn't like a fleet of Borg.
Yeah.
Oh, a fleet of Borg.
It wasn't a war. No. It wasn't a Dominion war where you just go, oh,
right.
yeah, we lost all these guys, but we were in war. This was literally like, oh, no one was prepared for this.
And just one thing came through and wrecked half the Federation. So
yeah,
I thought that was probably the one, the only thing I always say against Voyager, and I love Voyager too, so, don't take that the wrong way, but the diminishing of the Borg's severity in the universe happened with Voyager, because if it's your monster of the week instead of your one-time baddie, it doesn't become as menacing anymore. Especially when you had like the Borg babies and everything, it was just like,
it was weird. But I did like what is it? Species 8472
867532009, Jenny. Yeah,
no, that's my phone number.
8472.
Oh, you put it on stream. But it's like I liked the idea of the Borg coming up against something that they they couldn't actually assimilate, and it was going, oh, they're actually threatened by this. But then they kind of made it going, oh, we've just totally killed the Borg, like we've totally neutralized the Borg threat. Like the Doctor just goes, hey, cool, yeah, we can sort out the Borg permanently now, in that kind of way. And it was a bit like, oh, okay, that's kind of lessened them dramatically.
Yeah,
I also
diminishes threat. Yeah.
I also love the little callback to season 2 when he's just like, and I'm on about the real Borg, not that weird shit that happened on Stargazer. And I'm like, oh, right, okay. So you know that the real Borg are... Because let's be honest, yes, the transport conduit collapsed in the Delta Quadrant. They are still there.
Yep.
They didn't go anywhere. And I also love at the end of this scene where Shaw's just looking at the cadets that are all there, and they're all looking at him, and he just goes, forgive me, at some point, arsehole became a substitute for charm.
Yeah. That's great. There's so many great lines. Like, let's get the hell out of here. There's so many amazing lines. But one thing I wanted to ask you guys is, you brought up a good point that the Borg are not completely gone. And now you've got Girardi's Borg. And we still never got an answer to whatever the hell it was that made the time shift where Girardi's Borg came through. Because they were going to work with the Federation to stop whatever it was. What was it? And, what is it? Is it still around? Obviously, yes.
I'm going to say Tribbles.
I love that answer.
Because obviously DS9 brings them back in. What's happened? I know it was like a throwaway episode, but I love the idea that there's literally half the quadrant is just Tribbles now.
Yeah.
Hear me out. The alternate universe from Star Trek 09, the Kelvin verse.
Oh, I like that. Because then they could kind of close that timeline. Because they they're having such a hard time getting that fourth movie off the ground. Might as well just blow it up.
The mythical, the great reset.
And we done, never happened.
But so Picard obviously walks out with a holodeck, and Crusher catches up to them. And she's basically saying, hey, these pulses, they are essentially contractions. Like this nebula is about to give birth. And she's like, if we don't do something, it'll be over quickly for us. So it's a little quick ship to the observation lounge. And another great reference for me to the Soliton wave from Next Generation, where they're basically like, well, Jack's like, why don't we ride this like a wave? Why don't we absorb this energy, ride it like a wave, and book it, get out of this nebula with it? And, they convince Riker, because Riker's just basically, well, it's either we do this and it fails and we have a few minutes to live, or we just have a few hours to live. He's very resigned at this point.
Yeah.
I feel, Riker. But they do convince it, because Picard's basically like, let's do what we know best. And if we're going to do it, we'll face it together. And, let's just, it's one shot. You might as well take this shot.
Yeah.
So, and again, space babies.
I love the mention of space babies, and then obviously later in the episode, we're like, oh yeah, space babies.
Space babies.
But what he said, Farpoint.
Farpoint, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
We've seen space-based creatures before, like Farpoint.
Yeah.
Didn't we have the Oh, what's it called? Is it Next Generation where it's the psychic ship that the Betazoid?
Oh, the Gumtube.
Yeah, that's it. I
Yeah.
couldn't remember the name of it, but like there's so many crazy things. Like
Yeah.
that's the joy of Star Trek. But I have to say, I love the beginning, the scene where basically literally just cuts to them talking about this concept, and then it cutting to Riker being like, "This cannot work."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
We can
love
do
how
it.
punchy that
No,
was.
no, we can't do it.
Yeah. But I'm glad that they convince him, and then we get these beautiful visuals. I mean, the visuals in Star Trek over the last few years have just got better and better. But this season is above and beyond what we have seen. The beautiful shots of the Titan. It's so detailed, that ship.
And now
And
you know why they canceled Discovery.
Yeah.
We can't afford all of this. One of you's got to go.
Transfer auxiliary power from Discovery into
Yeah.
Picard. But sir, just do it, damn it. And it's just like, oh, it's so beautiful. These powering up shots of the Titan, and they're getting everything ready. And then we get this Picard facing Shaw, even after Shaw has essentially ripped him a new one on the holodeck, and he's like, Shaw, we need you. You are an engineer. We need we need the nacelle covers open, and you're the only one that can do it. And he's like, yeah, well, this is a fun. I mean, Shaw, this is Shaw's ship. And he's like, oh, with all your fancy retrofitted shit, still a 20-year-old banger though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like, right, okay, yeah, you're an engineer. So it's just like, yeah. So and he's like, so essentially we need to open it. We need to hot wire the ship. And again, it's like, this is just a giant car to these people. It's just like, yeah, let's just rub a few wires together.
And that was the wonderful thing, because obviously we got that through TNG. It was the fact of it very much felt like that with Geordi and Data and stuff just constantly changing everything about the ship. And obviously in DS9, even though it's Cardassian technology, like Chief O'Brien's like, I've replaced everything. Everything's got a triple backup now. And I liked that. I liked the sort of, I don't know, the sort of hands-on nature of the starship that we had. And I don't think we get that in previous seasons of Picard. It's basically the ship's a perfect entity that just does itself.
In Picard, all the ships were copy-paste except for the Stargazer.
Well, in that, yeah, okay, admittedly, that was one scene. That was one scene, and a bunch didn't run out.
But Joe,
yes, sir.
The season finale of Picard season 1, do you know why there was a copy and paste of the Zenghe, or the Inquiry class, as it's called?
There were subtle differences in each of the ships. They had
very subtle nacelle sizes, I think. Basically, from I mean, anyone can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. But what I took away from it, and what I was told at the time, was the visual effects for the season finale of season 1 were done 7 days before it was due to air on CBS All Access and Amazon Prime. So they were like, well, shit, we could either have all these beautiful ships and we can spend time, or we can just Control-C, Control-V, and maybe just elongate some of the nacelles here and there just to give it a difference. So I
didn't know that tidbit, so I love that. That's great. Yeah,
my little thing that happens, you're just going, oh god.
Well, I mean, if you guys think about it, we've been seeing the same Klingon ship blow up since Star Trek 6 until until Nemesis. I think they just used that same clip. Oh, such ship, and the same one actor gets blown up. You see his hair flying.
It's like it's like the visual equivalent of the Wilhelm scream.
Yeah,
okay, there you go.
And a lot of people will say, well, can't you go back and sort of redo it? And they're like, no, it's canon now. We can't do it. We're not going to do what Stranger Things did and patch a short. No, it's there.
This isn't Marvel. We're sticking with this.
Well, this is the thing. Like David Blass, this is why David Blass went to the guys at Star Trek Online. Shout out to Mike Fatton from Star Trek Online. And it was like, hey, guys, you've got some really good ships. And now Star Trek Online are like, hey, all these ships that you were slagging off, these are all canon now. So... And everyone's like, yay! And it's So that's my tiny little bit of trivia.
So Trek trivia. Now I'm gonna send you an Inquisition inquiry. The ship that Jadzia Dax, Ezri Dax was the captain of. Bashir got the same. They got the same ship. Was that the same class as the Enterprise F?
The Odyssey class.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So we're gonna get.
so
So could
Star
we get?
Trek, Star Trek Online, the Odyssey class has different variants, and annoyingly, they have different names for the variants. So you
Right.
have Odyssey, you have Lexington, and you have another one which escapes me at the moment. But yeah, in it's beta canon, can it be considered?
Yeah.
Dax's Starship, yeah, it's an Odyssey class.
Yeah. So that's. I would love to see if they can bring Nicole back for one of
Cold
these
Bear,
episodes.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
really hope so. I
I'd say
really, really hope so.
because she didn't, the sort of thing. Obviously, I was very upset that we lost Jadzia, but then I thought Ezri was really good. It was just a shame that it was like the final season, and they're like, we need to flesh you out, but we kind of need to finish things, and so it kind of it'd be lovely to see more of her in the obviously the video game, but then it'd be wonderful to see more of them on actual canon shows.
I think
Yeah.
Jason said it best in your podcast, Joe, where he was like, "This is not
He
season
usually
3
does.
yeah, this is not season 3 of Picard. This is TNG season 8. This is DS9 season 8.
Right.
This is Voyager season 8." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the crossover
He's really
we
good
deserve."
for that.
Yeah, it's what we wanted. Like, this is why I'm so annoyed that I'm like, this is they're like the final season of Picard, and you're like, can we say this is the first season of Picard and then continue it? And it's like
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with so with the time running out, they've got 2 minutes until the huge space baby birth. You've got Shaw and Seven in the nacelle room. They're going to create a ruse because Shaw's like, if anyone's going to attack us now, this would be the perfect time to do it. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And Seven's like,
Yeah.
And they're powering up and they're getting everything ready. Shaw opens one of the nacelles, and would you know it, Riker goes, are you going to be okay doing this on your own? Yes, we're going to be doing it okay on our own. I think they're buying it. And then Seven walks away. Seven walks away, and in comes Sydney, and it's Sydney being Sydney. She's like, my father was Geordie LaForge. And I'm just like,
yeah, right. It was like,
it's just like, that's an interesting random fact to say.
Yeah, and then he's like, and Shaw's like, pass the torch, and she's like, with only one nacelle open, would we not be able to go to warp? And I'm just like, oh, come on, just shoot the changeling. Yo, we won't be able to go to warp. And she looks, and they just get that little gun at their head, and she's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I am Sydney LaForge, daughter of the House of LaForge, third heir to the rings of Beta Z.
The rings of Beta Z.
Bane of lore.
Who has the rings of Beta Z now that Loxana's gone?
Do you want chamomile tea? Wrong scene. Okay. So and I love the fact we get this little call back to the previous set, and she's like, Commander who, LaForge? Commander Hansen, pop.
Yeah.
And the lovely little quip, and Shaw goes, how did you know? And she's like, LaForge calls me Seven out of respect.
Yeah.
Just looking at him. Yeah, and he's like, oh, yeah, good job.
but this is like the thing where, like I was saying, you don't know it until you see it. But this is great writing where we're using elements here that are crucial, that were like literal little things. Like, how in a lot of shows nowadays, it's like it'll make a big deal out of this will be relevant later. And then here it's not. It's totally, and and it's so fluid. It's beautiful.
Yeah. But then we get
the changeling's also fluid, but they're dead now. So,
well, it was crust. They went crusty, and then they suddenly maintained Sydney's form, which I didn't.
Yeah,
really
that was
get.
weird. I wanted. But the other funny thing is Sydney was on at the helm.
Yeah,
this was all going down. So it was like, oh, okay. So they did an obvious. Okay, this is the changeling. She can't be in two places at once.
Yeah, I think it's weird because we haven't really seen we've seen changelings die in a lot of ways, because obviously you had Mirror Universe Odo, who just exploded from a phaser blast. That seems a bit melodramatic, right. But Diva there. You've got the one that goes into the warp core and gets frazzled and then sort of just half mutates and stuff. But that kind of keeps its shape, doesn't it, when he dies? And then he crumbles. So most of the time they end up as dust. So the idea that this one kind of maintains its shape is a bit odd.
Yeah, but
it looked cool though, so forgiven.
It did. Visually, it was awesome.
Oh yeah. But then we get
Yeah.
another booby trap reference where there's asteroids, there's obstacles, and instead of Tokyo drifting like they do with the Enterprise D, how no one has put the Tokyo Drift theme above that scene where the Enterprise is drifting around an asteroid, I will never know. But we get a lovely reference, where Jack is actually, pointing out where you need to go and stuff like that. And he's like, trust me, 4 more seconds. And we get this lovely scene of the Titan just like bobbing up and then bobbing down. And it's finally the birth happens. And
good baby.
Can I just say, before we get to this, just how wonderfully dire the situation was. Like, it played it perfectly, where you were like, whoa, I do not remember Trek being this bleak before, where it's literally they've turned off the life support, everything, everything resting on that, and everyone is just, and you can really feel it, the tension in it, kind of thing. And it's wonderful to go like, we're going, hey, this is darker Trek, so we can have it where it's a bit more violent, there's blood, there's swearing and stuff, but also the idea of going, whoa, these are really serious situations. And and I really like that. And obviously, like, the birth happens and everything's good,
everything's bright as well, like all the lights come on and
they start to place the IQ bulbs on the bridge.
Because I was just like, okay, is this directed by Zack Snyder? It's so dark.
yeah. And then obviously the riding the wave, like the Soliton wave again, and the sucking in this energy and the drawing more power. And then we see the Shrike appear, and then Riker does perhaps one of the greatest things.
Maneuver.
The Riker maneuver where he just fucking yeets a rock.
I love this. I've got all of my notes here, and literally at the bottom it's just going fucking asteroid.
It's like I half expected, because like Crusher goes, "Did you just throw a rock at her?" And I half expected to say, "Well, she threw a ship at us," and he's like, I did."
Yeah. This is the thing. That's why I was kind of scared that it was like, this is going to be the end of Vadik, because I was like, that is the perfect sort of rounded conclusion to a character by basically, and I was like, oh no, please, I want to see more of them because they're amazing,
Luckily, that wasn't the end for her, but she's a subordinate, not even a mid-level boss.
But that's the problem, though, when they're like that, and we found that out now, it's kind of like, oh, the torch has been passed, like, and you could get rid of this character potentially. And I'm like, no, but I like this iteration of the villain,
Yeah, absolutely. But then we get one of the most beautiful scenes I've seen in Star Trek for a long time, Space Babies, which are very reminiscent of the aliens from Farpoint / jellyfishes a little bit. And the music throughout this whole scene, it's so good. So good. Like, it's so it reminds me of what Star Trek is all about. And it's all about new life, new civilizations, explorations. And for Beverly to seek out new life. Oh, yes.
Perfect.
Go on, girl.
Perfect.
Go on.
And I especially love that. And we said this earlier on ours, with the fact that she's getting a main focal point of this, because all the movies, it's always been about Picard and Data.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or Picard having his swerve with the Forever people. The first one was Data saying bad words and getting his emotion chip. And the third one being Data's death, later on being Data's death. It was always about Picard and Data, and everybody was kind of in the background. But Bev got pushed such into the background that she was just 5 minutes, activate EMH. And then Robert Picardo was the main doctor for a while.
Perhaps you would like an analgesic?
Yeah. Maybe a dural appetizer.
It's that thing, like, because obviously Next Gen suffered a little bit from not really knowing what to do with Troy, but they kind of always had something for like Crusher to do. And then, like you say, in the movies, they were like, you're here, but you don't really do anything. But I think that's wonderful. It's like, that this season is like redeeming Beverly a bit and kind of going, hey, you're doing more than fucking a candle.
Yeah. And then Riker just says, I think we should boldly get the hell out of here, which is going to be my new saying when I'm leaving work on a day. I'm going to boldly get the hell out of here, guys.
That's right.
So the Titan warps out, and then we get a lovely captain's log. Finally, a captain's log. And then we have a lovely scene between Riker and Deanna, where he's just basically saying, "Look, I know I've done wrong. I know what I've been like. I want to change. I want to change for you." And I think again, Jonathan Frakes, his acting. I truly.
I mean, how soon you're the director?
Yeah, I've truly underestimated how good of an actor Jonathan Frakes can be, and these 4 episodes have just he's blown it out of the park every single scene that he's been in. And then we get the lovely cliffhanger, little teaser with Jack washing his face, and then we see the red vines, the red door, which I want to paint black. Rolling Stones reference for you, big lovers. And then little things of clouds and exactly, yeah.
That'll be in the next bloody episode. The next time they need to be like, this happened in the past. They'll be like, oh, it's painted black now.
And then and that's it, and show over. And for me, this season of Picard has not suffered what the first 2 seasons did, where it had a first episode, a couple of episodes, and then dropped off.
We broke the curse.
This is gone. Successfully brilliant.
The 3rd episode was downhill.
Well, you're just so weird. Like season 2, I was like, oh, thank God, because I don't like season 1. Season 1, I was literally like, why did they do any of this? Like, what is this? Like, and I didn't really like anything it brought to the table. And then in season 2, I was like, oh, I really like this. And then it just goes bang, and you're like, oh, okay, right, okay. I'm enjoying it, but it's not really what I wanted.
I just think they spent too much time in the past.
It was like, hey, Whoopi Goldberg's coming back as Guinan for an episode. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
You told me that on the tin,
Yeah.
So Joe.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe. What were you going to say? Sorry, go on.
Oh, I did. I think they did a disservice in the first season by building up this whole android angst, and then kind of not really going back and getting into who made those original androids that went crazy on the Mars planet, what's going on with Mars, because they're kind of like, oh man, these androids went crazy and they killed everybody. Okay, so moving on, we're going to talk about Data. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it.
Like, oh.
It's like what we want to know more about that. Like at least I guess at least the idea exists in the universe now that someone could do a comic series about it. They could do a spin-off series about it, kind of thing. So it's like there, but it wasn't even framed in a sort of monster of the week kind of way, where it's like you know how it's like going, hey, here's a problem, but we're not going to mention it, but it's kind of going to exist at the side. But no, it was a shame because the thing with season 1 is basically all of the stuff I wanted to know more about was not the routes it went down. I was like, oh, cool. Can you go over here? No, were you going? Okay,
right. Whatever. So, but I did love the final goodbye to Data. I thought that was a very beautiful scene. Yeah. So could you turn me off now? They kept going in that one thing, and I thought that was fantastic. And having Brent's final goodbye as Commander Data was just beautiful. So
yeah. So, guys, I'm going to go to Joe first because he is our very special guest. What did you think of this week's episode?
Oh, it's fantastic. I think they just keep hitting it out of the park, and here in America we call it a home run, and they just hit another home run. It's a baseball reference for the Niner fans. I love the acting. I love the cinematography. I love that they made an excuse to keep the ship dark because the modern cameras are so good. You'll see all the little stitches and things in the makeup and the suits and whatnot. So you need to have a different type of film grade, unlike what they had on the Enterprise D and Voyager, where you had this like kind of grainy film. So, you had no choice. But now we're so advanced in our technology for filming that we need to cover it up other ways. And I think they do a great job. And I'm so invested into this. I'm like, constantly going, all right, well, if this is this, then this is this. And I'm always coming up with conspiracies. I'm like Charlie. I don't know if you guys know on Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I'm like Charlie Day. The line connects to this.
That meme is amazing.
That's the greatest meme. And that's how I spend my week up until the next episode. And I'm always giddy and anxious. I remember when the first episode of this season came out, it was like Christmas. I was so excited. Oh my God, here we go, here we go, here we go. And just like Christmas when I was a young guy, I put the TV on. I said, okay, here we go. This is it. This is it. And I fell asleep. And I had to watch it later on when I came home from work. I was like, oh, I'm old now. I can't hang. But yeah, they're just Terry Metalis is knocking it out of the park. I'm so excited to see what they do. Now I know that, the genesis of Shaw. I kind of had a suspicion that it was connected to Wolf because he had such disdain for Seven and Picard. So I was like, okay, there's something happened with Wolf. Maybe his wife died too, or his kids or something like that. And for them to really get into it like that in this episode, I thought was a beautiful touch that loops everything together in the last 3 other episodes. And the only angst I have with this episode is we didn't get Worf and we didn't get Geordi, because I really want that whole gang to get back together.
Next episode. It has to be next episode.
That's what I said last episode, and then here we are. Because I thought, like,
we're going to say episode 5 now.
Yeah. I think it's good though that at least we respect that with this series being written so well, it's the idea of when we get Geordi, it'll be good, so it'll be worth it. Like, and rather than season 1 that was let's throw all the references in, like higgledy-piggledy kind of thing. This feels very much like we will see him when it's time to see him. And I like that, like, the Worf wasn't in this one, and it just read, look, we're telling this story, we'll get back to them. Because it might be the next episode's purely Worf and Raffi, and I'll be fine with that,
Really?
So, sorry, Joe, go on.
No, I'd be surprised if they would do an all Worf episode. I mean, it would be interesting, but at the same time, it's like, really? A whole Worf and Raffi? Like,
well, the wonderful thing about Star Trek, because it's an ensemble cast, you can do that. It's like in DS9 where they just go like, it's a Ferengi episode. And you're like, oh, okay. So Cisco appears for like a shot. And then it's like, okay, cool. We don't need him for this. Because of the strength of it, you could, like, because it's so good this season.
Yeah. So Graeme, what did you think of this week's episode?
Were we filming when I was gushing about being really excited throughout the episode? I can't tell if that was us chatting.
Find out by watching the video back.
I can't. We're in the video. It's when it's
uploaded.
It's too meta to go back now. But
I might have been recording the whole time. You never know.
See, if we were live on the thing, we could be asking the chat here. So there we go. But I absolutely adored this, and sorry if I'm reiterating here, but I just got genuinely excited for this. Like, I literally had it waking up this morning. I got Snatch Talk done. I got all of my work done, did yesterday and stuff. And then today I was like, on my lunch break, I'm going to sit down with some food and I'm going to watch Picard. I'm going to turn my phone off. I'm going to turn everything off. And I'm just going to sit there with a notepad and enjoy it. And it was so rewarding. Like, I kept getting upset. Well, I kept getting sort of like, I kept kind of getting sort of like nervous that every time it faded to black, that was the end of the episode and it was going to finish. And I genuinely wanted to go and pause the show to go and make like a cup of tea or something. And then I was like, oh, but if I pause it, I'm going to see how much of the bar is left at the bottom.
Yeah.
Oh, so I didn't. I just kept watching. And it was like, and I'm like, I have not had that for a show for a very long time. But it's because it was so very engaging and like, it's just brilliant. And I just want, now that we've kind of gone, oh, the formula, what Trek is, and we have someone who's a showrunner who knows what Trek is, I'm like, keep doing this, please. Can we just have another 8-season show of Trek that is of this quality? And I would be the happiest person in the whole world. But absolutely loved it. Enough references in it. The bleakness I absolutely loved because it made everything shine a bit brighter when they got through it. But my main points are, I loved where it had Picard in the command chair with Riker sitting to his right again. And it was just this little detail. And they did make a fuss out of it in, cinematography wise, but it was the idea of going, this is beautiful. Like, I love that. And I also loved the idea of, I loved that they solved the situation. Like, it's like Sherlock Holmes and all these like Miss Marple mysteries and stuff where where it's good when all the components are there. So you could work it out yourself. And then afterwards you're like, but But then I found in a lot of the modern Trek, they kind of don't do that. They kind of have Deus Ex Machinas where it just goes like, oh, they're saved by such and such. And I was fully expecting at the beginning of the episode to be like, oh, they're going to fall into the gravity well. Oh, but Geordie's appeared in his ship and he saved them. And I'd be like, don't do that. Please don't do that. Like, and then it didn't. It went, no, they've worked it out using this stuff that we set up cleverly in previous episodes. You know, like the whole, oh, it's bioelectric signals. Why is that? Oh, it's because it's jellyfish people. Like, oh, you know. And yeah, I can't gush about it enough, but I will stop. Because, you know, if I gush too much, there'll be fluid everywhere. It'll be the end of my 16 hours. It'll be nightmare. We'll all drown in gush. That's the most horrible thing I've said today.
Did you guys end up watching the episode again?
Twice, yeah.
I haven't had time. I sort of watched it on my lunch break, then had to go back to work, and then basically finished work, and immediately I'm here. So I'm like,
oh wow.
I will watch it again.
This is the first time in a long time that I'm watching Trek and rewatching episodes where it's like, I haven't done that since Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh man, I can't wait for that. Because for us, it was aired on one channel. And then if you stayed up really, really late on that same channel, they play it again. So I used to watch it and then stay up really late to watch it again. And that's the last time I did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, oh my God, 30 years ago. That's when Shaw got his friends killed. Yeah.
No.
The only thing I'm going to, I mean, obviously I love this episode. The only thing I'm going to say, and I've spoken to Joe about this, the Enterprise C or something relating to the Enterprise C is going to be relevant in this series. And I don't know what, I don't know how, but we are seeing way more references than we should to a ship that was lost 70 years ago in Star Trek time.
Right.
Because I was saying to you, Joe, like in the first episode of this season, Picard's got a model of the sea on his desk. We then see statue of Garrett, the Red Lady, and then we've just seen the Enterprise C models and ships dotted throughout, and it's subtle indications like that. It's like there's a scene in 10 Forward where there's a picture of Guinan in the first episode, and then in this episode there's a picture of Guinan and Crusher. And it's sort of like it's tiny little things like that for me I'm picking up, and I'm like, okay, so the Enterprise C, what's going on? And goddamn, if I do not get Empress Sealer, right, that'll be my only why, because we need Denise Crosby.
She didn't die.
She did not
die, Sealer.
No.
So that she could absolutely be the one pulling the strings the whole way.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Like, she's the big bad?
What do we reckon? Like, what do we reckon? Give me a percentage out of 100 that we're going to get Sealer.
60.
80%.
Oh, you're going to 80%. Okay, 60. Yeah. I'm going to be the pessimist here. I'm going to say 50%, simply because if it is true, then Denise Crosby has just lied to fans, because she's like, oh, they didn't ask me to be in it, and it's like, I bet they fucking did, you know.
I've met Denise, and she would absolutely do that.
Yeah. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I forgot what somebody did that before, where it was like, no, they didn't ask me. So sorry. And then all of a sudden they showed up. I think it was the Fourth Doctor in the reunion.
Yeah.
They asked him, Tom Baker, are you going to be in it? And go, no. And then all of a sudden, everybody's back. Oh,
you lied to me, Baker.
Yeah.
So
overall, I would love that. Like, I think it'd be great though, because if this is the last season of Picard, then it is rounding up the next gen, like, sort of thing. So I love that. I think Sealer would need to appear, because that's another loose end. Because we've got Lore that's a loose end still, because I know technically he's been taken apart, but I don't feel like he got a send-off. Actually, we know Lore was taken apart. We've seen the trailer, yeah. So that's me being dumb. But then Sealer
and Moriarty too.
Yeah. And
Moriarty was a loose end that they never tied up.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm so excited to see them. Like, I think, what other loose ends are there that they could possibly...
So the conspiracy aliens, the
bugs
that have never appeared again. Like,
or affinity called by Jason, the butt bugs.
The butt bugs.
The butt bugs. Yeah, they've never come back, because they said they would. So if they end up being the ones behind everything, and that's what's controlling Sealer.
Oh God,
that Jason's never gonna let me live that down, because I went in on how wrong they were, because they had a theory that Riker was a changeling. I was like, no way, Riker wasn't a changeling. I just think he was affected by the emotional weight of his son passing, and then Picard actually getting a chance to be with his son, who's an adult.
Yeah.
So I think that's why he acted the way he did.
So, guys, I think we're going to call it a day on this episode review. I want to thank Joe for being our very special guest in this episode. This is our first. This is my first guest ever, and I can't believe it's you. And I'm so happy.
Means a lot. I really love what you guys do with the Nerdy Up North. You guys are our friends across the pond, and it's been an honor to be on with you guys. You guys are fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much, John. I want to thank the lovely Graeme, as ever, my co-host,
for existing. No, it's been absolutely lovely speaking to you, Joe. It's been
likewise. Nice to meet you in virtual person.
In virtual person, in the changeling flesh.
If you ever come to England, we shall introduce you to the north, and then you will be on the first plane, probably back to the United States.
Yeah, be like,
anyway,
suddenly Holland doesn't seem that bad.
If you are ever in England, we would love to have a live podcast, have a live chat, meet.
Oh yeah. So I am discovering my lineage, and I am part Welsh and Irish. So I will definitely be visiting those lands. My grandmother's family was from Wales, and I'm trying to figure out exactly where it's all coming together. So that's one of the mysteries. So you'll be a guest appearance by Captain Joe Dove. Hey guys, be prepared. It'll probably happen.
But so yeah, guys, give Spectrum Sanctorum a follow on all the channels. Like I said, everything is in below. I'm pointing to something that doesn't. I'm pointing to my microphone right now, but through the magic of editing, there will be links down below. Give them a follow. Give the lovely Velvet Snatch a follow.
Yes, that's it. Please follow my drag Instagram, the Velvet Snatch, and on YouTube, the Velvet Snatch. That's where we're doing Snatch Talk. We have 3 more weeks of it. We've just released week 3 of the competition, yesterday when we're filming this, and then there's 3 more weeks and then the final. So let's see what happens with it. But it's very fun to do, a bit exhausting. And then I've got no gigs at all in April. I've turned everything down. So it basically means I'm just literally gonna paint Warhammer, see friends, and be on a Nerdy Up North. That's the plan for April. So,
and speaking of Nerdy Up North, please give us a follow on the old YouTube. Like, comment, and subscribe. I always wanted to say that. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. We are on Facebook. We've got a wonderful Facebook community. 7,200 people now. Can you believe that? People,
that's a lot of nerds.
Why do they want to listen to us? I don't know. We are also on Twitch, where I am the positivity pony, as people are starting to call me now. I do have the lovely. Where is it? There we go. I've got the lovely unicorn headband.
Oh, there you go.
That everyone loves. And thanks to the kindness of Jake and Euphoria, I also have a Cheetos hat. So
nice.
I don't know if it's basically them saying, hey, the frosted tips aren't working. Please cover them up with as much stuff as possible. I don't know. If that's the case, then I shall go brighter and I will go full Guy Fieri on all of you.
The people in America think I'm his cousin or something.
What?
So they always want to go, can we dye your hair? I was like, why? So that you can look like Guy Fieri. I'm like, seriously?
Oh, no. I shall be the Guy Fieri Trekkie. So I'd be like, Helms set a course for Flavortown. So
great.
But give us a follow on Twitter. It's twitch.tv/nerdyupnorth. I am on Twitter, and I'm going to do a shameless plug on Twitter because I am doing all things Star Trek, as Joe's found out today. I am rubbing up to all the Trek royalties. I'm getting to know people. I'm speaking to people. I'm basically going, hey, Terry Metalis, I want to speak to you.
You and me both.
Yeah,
we
shall join forces.
This episode made me want to dig out, because I've got a Twitter account for like Sinoise, and I've got a Twitter account for like the Velvet Snatch, but I don't get Twitter. I got it when it first came out, but now I'm just like going, this baffles me, because every time I go on, it's like, hey, here's loads of posts that aren't by the people you follow, but they're like related, and you're like, this is not useful to me at all.
Yeah, and
but
now
it made me want to dig out Twitter to message Terry Metalis, to reach out to be like, thank you. And that was just the weirdest sensation to be like, no, I must tell this man thank you.
He's done such a great job. Yeah.
He has. So you can follow me on Twitter at Goodwill None. You'll probably see me by my god awful face and unicorn headband. Because I wanted a recognizable photo. They were like, "Oh, who's that Burke that's talking about Star Trek?" Well, he's got a headband, right? Okay, I know who he is.
Oh, he's a unicorn. It's fine.
He's a unicorn. Yeah. We also have Patreon, guys. Don't forget, we are on Patreon at Nerdy Up North, where the lovely Sammy is talking about Game of Thrones, and she will also be talking about Lord of the Rings soon. Nice. Because she loves Lord of the Rings. We are also on TikTok as well. God, we are everywhere. We are like Cordyceps.
I'll follow you right now.
Yeah, Nerdy Up North. I don't do the tick and the talk. I'm far too old.
But I know most of you guys. So
yeah. So
I can't believe I get followers on TikTok, and I'm like, I upload a video like once, like 2 videos a year, and I'm just like, I hope you're enjoying the wait. You know,
you are the internet
tomorrow, and I'm just like, hey, you'll get it.
You are the internet historian of Nerdy Up North. You may upload one video a year, but everyone will love you and everyone will follow you.
Yeah.
But guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching us talk about what we love, which is Star Trek. We will see you next week for episode 5. I can't wait until next week. To everyone watching, live long and prosper. Live long and prosper, Joe. Live long and prosper, Graeme. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.